A new mother cradles her newborn on a warm summer morning. Suddenly, a woman storms across the yard, demanding she hand over her baby. But what this HOA Karen didn't know was that the father, quietly watching from inside, was a decorated Navy SEAL who had faced war zones tougher than any neighborhood drama. And when Karen crossed the line, she triggered a chain of events that would leave the entire HOA shattered. David and Alicia had just moved into what seemed like their dream neighborhood. A quiet lakeside community, lined with white fences, trimmed hedges, and smiling faces. At least on the surface, Alicia had just given birth to their daughter, Maya. She was tired but glowing, enjoying the simple joy of sitting on the porch swing with her baby. David, her husband, was finally home after years of deployments. A Navy SEAL, he had survived missions that tested his strength, courage, and patience, but nothing could prepare him for what was about to happen in this suburban paradise. They believed this was a safe place to start over. But HOAs have a way of turning neighbors into nightmares. It started subtly. A woman named Karen Whitmore appeared one morning as Alicia rocked Maya on the porch. Karen was the HOA president, self-proclaimed guardian of the neighborhood's standards. With a clipboard clutched tightly and an artificial smile, she approached. "New baby, huh? Well, congratulations. But you should know, we don't allow crying to disturb the neighborhood peace. And those, visitors you had last night? Not very fitting for our image here." Alicia, stunned, simply smiled politely. "Those were my parents. They came to meet their granddaughter." Karen didn't care. She glanced at the baby, squinting. "She doesn't really look like she belongs here." Mixed babies. Well, some of the older folks aren't comfortable. Alicia's heart sank. But before she could respond, Karen leaned in closer and whispered, "You might want to consider finding a nanny, or even letting me help. I've raised kids the right way." And then she said the unthinkable. "Why don't you let me hold her? Better yet, why don't you hand her over? Babies need to bond with women who understand this community." Alicia clutched Maya tighter, shaking her head in disbelief. David found out later that evening. His wife tried to brush it off. Maybe she was just being nosy, but David knew better. He had seen the way power-hungry people operate in war zones, in politics, and in small villages abroad, and he recognized it instantly. Karen was the type who wouldn't stop until she won. Over the next weeks, it escalated. Karen filed noise complaints every time the baby cried. She sent HOA notices about the unapproved porch swing and yard decorations, which were just baby toys. She even stood outside their house, staring, clipboard in hand, like a hawk circling prey. Then came the letter, a formal HOA notice, stating that the couple was in violation of community standards. But in the fine print was something chilling. Karen had written a personal note at the bottom. "If you don't want the HOA to take further action, you might consider letting someone more suitable help raise the child." One hot afternoon, Alicia was alone in the backyard when Karen stormed in through the unlocked gate. Without permission, she reached for the stroller where baby Maya was sleeping. "Enough is enough. You don't know what you're doing. Hand her to me." Alicia froze in shock, screaming for help. Inside, David shot up from the couch. His instincts, honed in combat, kicked in. He sprinted outside, his voice booming like thunder. "Step away now!" Karen stumbled back, startled by the intensity in his eyes. This wasn't just a protective father. This was a man who had stared down danger in enemy territory, but Karen smirked, trying to regain control. "You don't scare me. The HOA will ruin you. You don't belong here. None of you do." David said nothing. He simply stepped between his wife and the intruder, his presence alone enough to freeze her in place. What Karen didn't know was that David wasn't just any homeowner. He had spent over a decade as a Navy SEAL, serving in classified missions across the world. He had been trained to dismantle hostile threats without hesitation. He had seen dictators try to strip families of their dignity. He had seen bullies rise and fall, and in that moment, Karen was no different. Word spread quickly when David contacted a lawyer and filed a restraining order. But he also quietly began digging. Using his discipline and tactical mind, he gathered every violation Karen herself had committed. Unauthorized modifications to her property, HOA funds suspiciously redirected to her personal account, multiple neighbors harassed into silence, one by one, her secrets unraveled. At the next HOA meeting, Karen strutted in with her usual smugness until David entered, calm but commanding. He laid out the evidence, each piece like a hammer striking down. Neighbors gasped as the truth poured out. Karen's empire of control crumbled in real time. When David finished, he leaned forward and said quietly but firmly, "You tried to take my family, but you forgot one thing I don't break. I fight back." The board voted unanimously to remove Karen as president. Investigations into her financial misconduct soon followed, and for the first time, the neighborhood breathed freely. Karen's downfall wasn't just justice for David and Alicia, it was liberation for everyone who had suffered under her iron rule. The family's porch swing stayed, the baby's laughter echoed freely, and the community began to heal. David, once hardened by war, now found peace in rocking his daughter to sleep on that same porch. Alicia smiled, knowing her husband's strength wasn't just in combat, it was in protecting what mattered most: family. And as for Karen, she moved away in disgrace, her clipboard forever silenced. Sometimes the fiercest battles aren't fought overseas. They happen right in our own neighborhoods. And when a bully tries to take what isn't theirs, they may just find themselves facing someone stronger than they ever imagined. Because a Navy SEAL doesn't just fight wars. He fights for his family.